Steve Carlson, This Is Your Life. I need a flash effect. This is an old flash bulb, probably doesn't work. And I'm sure someone out there, one of you video people, can do the effects things for me, but it's too late. So let's get the paparazzi for Steve Carlson, 1,000 subscribers contest. Okay, that wasted time. I just realized that Steve's got to go through probably 1,000 videos by the time this is over. Wes Montgomery, a collection, talking Verve. And the whole hip hop scene when they were using Verve and all this jazz stuff. So that's going to be playing in the background. Seriously, Steve Carlson, I wake up to you every Sunday morning. I turn over on my pillow and Steve Carlson is looking at me in the face. I'm working down here. I've been working since 6 a.m. Had a conference call. Busy. I'm taking my second coffee break to make this video to congratulate Steve Carlson on 1,000 subscribers. And when he hits 10,000, we'll pull out the 10,000 Maniacs catalog for him, because 10,000 maniacs like myself will be following him by that point. Anyway, real fine, Seattle, West Seattle, and Capitol Hill. A friend of mine, in fact, Julie, who was in one of my whack-a-moles, this is her cafe. She owns these, a third to be open in the new year. Anyway, congratulations, Steve. Seriously, I love watching you. You do wake me up on Sunday mornings, and I love your enthusiasm. Your pronunciation is probably just second to mine on certain things. I think we share that. I trip over my lips and do dyslexic things, and you know what I'm talking about. But I seriously, you're kind of one of the lions of, even though you're only, I guess maybe a few months more than me you started. I've been here a little over a year maybe now. I congratulate you. So there you go. All right, his contest, show 5 albums that you just go to, your go-to albums, 5 records that you play. Well, I'm gonna get wild and pick 10, because these are seriously 10 records I pull out all the time. With the thousands of records and CDs I have, when I don't know, I'm not in the mood of one of my new hipster, funky, African, punky, noise, new indie band records, I go back to these and they bring me much enjoyment. And I think these are records that everyone here should have personally, but here we go. And I'm gonna just do, I guess they're in alphabetical order because that's the way I pulled them, but I already had it in mind. I knew pretty much what I wanted. I narrowed it down from 20, but I think this is fine. Number 1 is Beck's Sea Changes, one of the great Moody albums ever. Gorgeous, beautiful album. Sea Changes with the album After This Morning Phase could be a companion set, because they both have that moody, ethereal thing. Love Beck's voice. In my opinion, he's the most creative artist of the last quarter century, by far. Original, everything else. I love Beck. This is a MoFi edition. Seek it out. I don't know if it's still in print. Maybe not. It's hard to get, but beautiful record everyone should own. If you can't find it on vinyl, hey, get a CD. It's great music no matter what. Next, to me, one of the most creative and original artists, female artists of the last 40 years, continues to just awe me whenever she does put out, and she doesn't put out a lot of records, but when she does, she's wonderful. But Kate Bush, I've told the story when the first day I ever went to England, London, March 1978, on the radio in the car, my friend who picked me up, they were playing Wuthering Heights, and I bought the single the next day. But Hounds of Love, which is a companion, which is basically Hounds of Love on one side, various songs like the hits, Running Up That Hill, Hounds of Love, and Big Sky and Cloud Busting. Perfect songs, great arrangements, totally original. And side 2, The Ninth Wave, which is basically a story about a woman floating all night in a life preserver in water. Tragic, horrific story, but gorgeous, beautiful. A Dream of Sheep. God. Hello, Earth. A perfect record, a perfect artist. Kate Bush. You know, I just saw that they listed the candidates for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Really? Kate Bush should be in there. We're talking, what's that guitar player guy? Dave Matthews? Are you fucking kidding me? Dave Matthews? Kate Bush is an original. Anyway, she's better than that, so there you go. Oh, I made some rules for myself. No Beatles, for obvious reasons, and no jazz. So I stuck with, and I pretty much stuck with pop and rock in this particular, for this contest. You know, one of my favorite bands is the Byrds, and Fifth Dimension, I probably, depending on my mood, it probably is my favorite Byrds album. The opening track, 5D, which is a beautiful kind of dirge-like Eastern, wonderful song, just gets me every time, Fifth Dimension. The lyrics in that are gorgeous. Van Dyke Parks appears on it as well. So Mr. Spaceman, 8 Miles High is on this record. What a beautiful record, and just a beautiful cover. The Byrds, Fifth Dimension on Columbia. Next, an album that to me is gripping. It's probably the most religious album I have, which isn't really religious. It is in a certain soulful way. I am not a religious person, but Nick Cave's The Boatman's Call. The Boatman's Call. This is a perfect record. This is probably his most moody. Well, I shouldn't say that. His recent albums are very kind of ethereal moody, song-based moody, not his wilder rides. You know Nick Cave, Australian, been around forever. In the movie Wings of Desire, the Wim Wenders film, there's a scene he plays on stage way back in the 80s. But I have all his music, I think, not all on vinyl, but I love this record. Green Eyes, Into My Arms. I mean, everything, it's just this beautiful, beautiful black hair. You know this album, and if you don't, you need this album. You must buy this album, Nick Cave. And I pull it out all the time. I really do. I just played it on Saturday, this past weekend. Kinks Arthur, this month it's celebrating its 50th anniversary. Victoria, Victoria, Victoria. 1969, Kinks Arthur. Ray Davis, to me, you know, right alongside Lennon McCartney as a songwriter, but really wrote about British life like no other. Every time I hear this, I'm gobsmacked. I love to say that. I've said that several times here just because you Brits who follow me like that, and Americans don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, and half the time I don't know what I'm talking about. So, Arthur by the Kinks. Told you I'm doing 10. I couldn't get to 5. I'm an overachiever. Okay. In America, you get food to eat. Now, okay. I got to read these lyrics just because they seem appropriate now. And to me, one of the best political songs ever. Randy Newman's Sail Away. Randy Newman's Sail Away. You know I'm a big Randy Newman fan. This is his best album. This is the album that everyone needs. One of America's great songwriters. One of the very best. No one likes us. I don't know why. We may not be perfect, but heaven knows we try. Let's all be around our friends. But all around, even our friends put us down. Let's drop the big one and see what happens. I'll go down a few lines. Boom goes London and boom Paris, more room for you and more room for me. And every city the whole world round will be just another American town. Oh, how peaceful it will be. We'll set everybody free. You'll wear a Japanese kimono and there'll be Italian shoes for me. They hate us anyhow, so let's drop the big one now. Let's drop the big one now. I know we don't like to get political, but it's a great song. It was written in the 70s. That's, I hate to say it, unfortunately still applicable today. But Randy Newman's Sail Away, a perfect, perfect record. Ray Cooder's on here too. All the Warner Brothers wonders. Now, people like this record and people don't like this record. They think it wrecked the band in their when they just changed from rock and roll based Brit pop and songs like Creep and fake plastic trees. And then they did an album with all blips and blops and electronic hips and hops. And I fell in love with this record. I knew Creep and I knew a couple of songs, but I think I only owned OK Computer, which everyone seems to love. You know, nice album. It wasn't my favorite. This album blew me away, especially when I first heard the opening track, Everything in Its Right Place. I think this is a perfect album, and this is a groundbreaking album. Kid A, Radiohead. I'm sure a lot of you know it. And I know a lot of people that like the guitar-based bands of the 90s in Britain were just hated when they went to and doing a lot of this electronic stuff. But Tom York and company, just to me, made a perfect record, perfect album. And I played a lot. It's got a great mood to it. I think this is the only Jewish album of the group. Simon and Garfunkel's Bookends. I think it's their best album. It's the closest they have to psychedelic folk. Not really, but it opens up with the acoustic Bookends theme and then goes into God Save the Life of My Child. Good God, don't jump. A boy sat on the ledge. An old man who fainted was revived. But great production, great songs. Mrs. Robinson on here, that was later that same year used in the great movie The Graduate, various variations of that movie. Hazy Shade of Winter, you kids know the Bengals cover of that, and Old Friends and America. What a great song. Great songwriter. You know, Simon and Garfunkel together were the best. People like to kind of joke about Artie, my buddy Artie, but together, sublime. And this record is a perfect record. I think after I drink this coffee, I'm gonna take some ecstasy. Ecstasy. XTC. Ecstasy. Skylarking, produced by Todd Rundgren, 80s record. The original version did not include the single Dear God, which was on a B-side, I believe, and it got so much radio play at the time that they added on the second pressing. This is a reissue from several years ago, the reissue remastered box set with alternate outtakes. Gorgeous, gorgeous set. But it's this is the original record that came out in the UK, that cover. This was the cover, but in America, it came out like this. I don't know if it's when it switched, and you gobsmackers in the UK could tell me that, because I know at least a handful of you are watching. But when the CD came out recently, in the last 5 years, again reissued, they put this cover back on. And if you have the CD, if you don't have this cover, the it's out of phase. It's reversed. The polarization, some kind of a techie thing like that is screwed up. So if you're a CD person, you need to find the one with this cover. Otherwise, it's not correct. Not that you probably noticed. It's still a good record. But XCC Skylarking, beautiful, beautiful Beatlesque, pop, psychedelic. The song Grass alone is just worth the price of admission. Steve, I'm sure you have this, right? And lastly, I go to the end of my pop, rock, soul, country shelf, and I go to the Z's, and I pick one of my favorite artists and my favorite album by that artist, Warren Zevon's self-titled Asylum Records from 1976. One of the great, also, this album is probably one of the best albums about the dark side of Los Angeles during the 70s, with a little kind of a cowboy flavor, not country, but cowboy. Great themes like Aaron Copland. Warren Zevon went on the road before he went solo. He was on the road as a musical conductor and piano player for the Everly Brothers on tour. He wrote a lot of orchestration, very influenced by Aaron Copland, as I said, which you can hear on the first several albums, all his albums. His string arrangements and writings are amazing. But Hasten Down the Wind, 3 songs by Warren were covered by Linda Ronstadt, including Hasten Down the Wind, which was the title of one of her albums. Poor, Poor, Pitiful Me as well. But Desperado Under the Eaves that ends with this. But everybody from LA at the time who was, almost anybody was on, Phil Everly was on it, Lindsey Buckingham and Stevie Nicks, Waddy Wachtel, David Lindley, Glenn Fry, and Don Henley from the Eagles, Carl Wilson from the Beach Boys. Had just a great feeling of that Los Angeles, you know? Well, the French Inhaler. That song, I'm going to end with that song because I was sitting in the Hollywood Hawaiian Hotel. I was staring into my empty coffee cup. I was thinking that the gypsy wasn't blind. All the salty margaritas in Los Angeles, I'm going to drink them down. And if California slides into the ocean, like the mystics and statistics say it will, I predict this motel will be standing until I pay my bill. And then at the end of, in French Inhaler, he writes, your pretty face looks so wasted, another pretty face devastated. The French Inhaler, he stamped in mailer, so long, Norman. And she said, so long, Norman. So long, Steve. Congratulations. Mazzy loves you.